Hey everyone, Roos here. Welcome to this special edition of The Pickup Show, the show where the algorithms are always accurate. In this episode, I'm going to show you a convenient way to assign constant values to parameters in a spreadsheet, and also to build something I like to call a control panel. So let's get to it. If you haven't already, fire up your favorite spreadsheet program. You'll notice that I am using this open source LibreOffice calculator. However, whether you're using Excel or something else, the functionality is the same and you should be able to follow along. All right, so I'm going to start up here in the upper left corner, and in column A I'm going to make a list of variables that I would like to assign values to and use in calculations. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I think in the business world they must use the word names instead of variables or parameters, or maybe they use that interchangeably. And so be aware, if I say the word names or parameters or variables, I mean the same thing. In the spreadsheet program, names are what's referred to as variables. So in column A, I'm going to make a list of variables or names, and in column B, adjacent to each one in the list of column A, I'm going to define the location of the actual values. So we'll be using column A as the label, variable labels, and column B to store the actual values. And then I'll show you how this is very useful for doing calculations. All right, so first of all, let's say we want to do some kinematic equation calculations. So let's define an x initial. And one thing about my spreadsheet, you can see it's just aching to make that first letter capitalized. So I have to go back and correct it. If you're using Excel, you won't need to do that. Let's call this next one v underscore 0, v naught. And again, I got to go back and make it lowercase. And let's also define an acceleration. That's good for now. Let's go to the box adjacent to x0. So x0 is the label. Here in this box, b1 is where I want to store the value associated with x0, but I'm going to do it in a special way. So you'll notice I've got this box adjacent to x0 highlighted. I move the arrow up to here. Now look when I hover over this field right here. See that? This name box magically appears. Right, that's called a name box. I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to type in the exact same thing I have in the label box A1. I'm going to type in x underscore 0. Make sure you hit enter. Right, and then let's click somewhere else around the spreadsheet and then go back and click that same B1, and you'll notice that x underscore 0 is still located in the name box. Now let me demonstrate what we just accomplished there. We've defined a name that called x underscore 0, x naught, that the spreadsheet will recognize. Let's say for whatever reason we wanted to make our initial position 78. All right. So I put 78 in the box where I defined the name x underscore 0. And let's go somewhere else, say right here, and assign that box x underscore 0. Now, if you're using Excel, the functionality is actually better than what you're observing on the video here. Mine doesn't color code things, but in Excel, if you just typed x underscore 0, it should have turned a color, I don't know which color, but that color should be matched by the background color where the value of x0 is stored. So there should be a color coordination between what you just typed and the background up here. And if you hit enter, then the spreadsheet does indeed know that the variable x0 has the value of 78. Right? So this is a very useful way to define values of variables, constant values that you can use in calculations. One more little demonstration. Let's say we wanted to change the value of x0. Let's say instead of 78 we wanted 3. Right? So I'm going to hit enter, 3, 2, 1, and you'll notice it instantaneously changed over here also. Let's define the same thing here like we did for x0. Let's do v0 and a. So I'm going to highlight the box adjacent to v0. So v0 is the label. Here's where the value is going to be stored. I go hover above the name box, type in the exact thing that the label as the label. That way you won't be confused. If you define the name in the spreadsheet as the same as the label here, you'll know what you're using. All right, and let's do the same for A. Highlight the box adjacent to A, go up here to the name box, type A, hit enter. Right, And now we can put values in for these. Let's say we want 0 for the initial velocity and negative 9.8. Let's say we're going to do a free fall problem or something. So we're going to assign A the value of negative 9.8. Then, as I did before, you can go anywhere and test those. Let's assign this box V naught. Hit enter. Yep. And let's assign this box A. Oops, hold on. I did something wrong. Start over. Sometimes these things have a mind of their own. Let's assign this box A, and it does indeed assign it like that. If I wanted to, say, go to the moon, where the acceleration due to gravity is 1/6 of that on the Earth, I could do minus 1.6 here, and you can see it instantaneously changes there. Right? Let's go back to negative 9.8. All right. If you want to get rid of things you've already defined or assigned, just highlight the boxes and hit delete or backspace and it gets rid of them. Let's do one more. There is another way to do this, by the way. Sometimes, you have to be careful, sometimes in highlighting the box adjacent to something, and you attempt to define the variable the same as the label, and if you don't hit enter and you happen to hit another box, that tends to screw up the system a little bit. So there is another way to assign these things rather than using this name box up here. And it's the same in Excel, you just get to it a little differently in Excel. But here I go to Sheet, and down here to Named Ranges and Expressions, I'm going to get something called the Name Manager. So again, it's called the Name Manager in Excel. It looks almost identical to this. You can get to it. And so here's a way that you can do this manually. So for instance, if I want to do another, let me just demonstrate how to define another variable here. Let's add. I'm going to go down here and click Add. All right, and I want to add a name, DT, and it says range or formula expression. So this is where I'm going to put the location of the value where DT will be stored. So I think I have to do that. No, that doesn't do it. I think I have to just click the value. So I haven't put the label in. I'm going to put the label here in A4, and I want this location B4 to be where the value of DT is located. So I think I just simply go here and type B, and then I go Add, and you can see it shows a list now. So here's the list of the various names that I have defined. DT is associated with the location B4. So hit OK, and I should be able to go here. Let's create the label. By the way, don't get this confused with a infinitesimally small amount. This is just some finite delta t I want to use in a calculation in a moment. And then over here, if I highlight the box adjacent to it, you'll notice in the name box it does indeed say dt. So I could put a time in here, say 2 seconds, and let's assign this box dt, and it's got it. Okay, good. So let's say we wanted to do a quick calculation. Let's let the initial position be 0. Let's say we've got a ball we're going to toss upward into the air. In one dimension, we're going to throw it into the air. Let's say I want to toss it up with 10 meters per second initial velocity. It starts at some origin. The acceleration due to gravity is downward. We're calling the down direction negative. And let's see what happens after a time interval of 2 seconds. Well, that's just the simple kinematic equation. Here's an example how to use all these variables in a calculation. So let's assign this box. This is going to be equal to x underscore 0 plus v underscore 0. This is the famous 1/2 at squared equation, where I'm just using dt as the time interval. Plus we'll use 0.5 instead of 1/2 times a times dt. Don't forget to square it, so upward pointing 2. Now, if you were doing this in Excel, the Excel functionality is much better. These x underscore 0 would be color coordinated with the background where its value is located, and v underscore 0 would have a different color, and this would be lit up with that same color, and the location of a as well as this letter a would have the same color. So it's very nice functionality which demonstrates the values you're actually using in the calculation. It's easy to troubleshoot that way. All right, so if I hit enter, then it indeed calculates some value for that. Let's say, so that means in relative to the origin, in 2 seconds, the ball will be located 0.4 meters above that initial location. What if we were on the moon? Well, Let's go back to the location of A and make it negative 1.6 again. Hit enter, and you can see it instantaneously changes, and this is a very useful way to do calculations. On the moon it would be 16.8 meters above that position.